today's presentation, as Andrei said, it's going to be about an alternative way of doing a user interface. But first of all, how many of you are familiar with HomeFresh? Not that, okay. Half of you. So, HomeFresh is a service which delivers to you a meal kit. You can see the menu. You can see the menu if you click on it. Okay, menu. Menu with food and stuff. And then you go down below and then you fill out stuff here. Okay, so you can't order for today. You can only order for the upcoming days. So today you can only order for Thursday and Friday. So you go here, you select what you want, and where do you want to get the meal kit, some information, your name, address, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people like this service, but among my friends, a lot think that the website sucks. The team is kind of working on it, so we're gentle with them, but it kind of sucks. So I wanted to do something else, and I was very bored. So I did something which I'm going to show you. So today's presentation, this is me. Maybe I should have said that before I started to talk about HomeFresh, but whatever. Why do we make user interfaces in general? We make them because we want our users to be able to interact with the system which we build. We need to get some information from them. They need to send some commands, do some stuff. Usually, so it's a way of interacting. What UIs do we usually do? Well, most of our UIs are in the browser. Some of us are mobile, some of them are mobile apps, you name it. But usually, browsers, buttons, inputs. Okay, so how do you have to build that? Well, it has to be intuitive, easy to use, simple. It should be pretty. You have to write some JavaScript. You have to write some CSS, HTML, get some icons, images, fonts, get a designer. It's kind of a lot of work. And if you're not very good at it, you need help. So your entire job, if you want to build something, gets a bit tricky. But what if I told you that there's another way, a very simple way? The command line interface. That's the holy grail for you. Why? Well, because you don't really have to make anything pretty because the variations are not that many. You don't need CSS and HTML because there is no CSS and HTML. Images, icons, nope, that not there either. So designers, maybe you don't need that. So let's get to work. How do you do it? I think for me, the last CLI app I did was in high school or university, and you had to do a bunch of C code, parse some command line arguments. It was a bunch of mess. Usually it didn't work, and a bunch of tedious tasks you had to do. But JavaScript comes to the rescue. Why? Because JavaScript runs everywhere, even in the CLI. So, demo time. So, this is a tool. It's an npm package. Better? Now it's good? Maybe I overdid it a bit. And maybe something will not work, but
you can zoom out afterwards.
I can zoom out. Okay, so I did an npm package which you can install. Okay. So for you guys who don't know, npx is a tool with which you can download off the internet an npm package and even run it, and then it gets discarded. But I'm not going to use this now. I'm just going to install it. Could have installed it before, in hindsight. Okay, done. So, it does this. How do you use it? Well, I don't know. Okay, it has help. So, order or O. Okay, so then let's order something. Okay, so this you can't see, but let's try this. This is something which I did just this week, inspired by some friends. So let's see if it works better now. So clearly, this is some food. Some more food. Some rice, maybe. Well, I think if you look at this, it kinda does. That's why if you zoom, you don't see anything, but work in progress. So, skipping the menu with pretty pictures. Internet. Okay. So, what do you want to order? For what day? I want something for Friday. What do you want to order? I shouldn't have printed this in the console. Just ignore that. Okay, you can choose what you want. You see how much it costs. I want this. Do you want to order something else? Yeah, sure, why not? Quesadilla. I think I'm done. Email. This is good. First name, last name, phone. Where do I want to get delivered? Timisoara is fine. I want to get it at the office. Let's say I want it at espresso is good. So it has some defaults from the last time you use it, but if not, you can just overwrite it and choose something else. Are you sure? If I click yes, it's gonna order, trust me, it works, but since I'm not gonna be in town, I won't be able to eat it, so I'm not gonna order it. But believe me, it works. It even says it's sorry. Okay, so this basically replicates the form from here. Exactly the options which you have in this input, and place order is the same. How's it made? As I said before, no C code, just JavaScript. There are a bunch of useful tools on the internet which help you to do almost anything, and yeah, also a CLI app. Commander is the first NPM package which helped. What it does, it gives you the possibility to parse command line arguments in a very elegant way. So for example, I just said that I want to have the command order, I give it an alias of O, the description, and the action is what I want to do. In my case, I really do something there, not just console log, do some cool shit. And also, out of the box, it gives you help. So as you saw, the -h command prints out all the things with the description. So you don't have to do anything, and you get a pretty good manual for your CLI. The meat of the entire thing is asking the user for stuff. And here, Inquirer comes to the rescue. It's a library which allows you to prompt the user for something, to ask him a question, and then capture the answer back. It has a lot of possible question types, like choice out of a list, multiple checkboxes if you want, simple yes/no question, free text input. You saw a bunch of them in the demo. And how you use it, you just give it an array of prompts, and a prompt is something which has a type, a name, a message, and okay, in this case of a multiple choice, the list of choices. Now that you ask the questions, how do you get the answer? So very easy. The dot prompt returns a promise, and in the then you will have all the answers of the user in dedicated keys. Like I said here, the name is food choice, so then here answers.foodchoice will give me what he selected in that input. Okay, but what if I don't know all the questions? So how you saw previously, there was that question like, do you want to order something else? And there, if the guy says yes, then I have to ask him all over again. In what day, what do you want? And it can be like a never-ending cycle. So there's a fancy solution for this. It's based on observables. You never thought you would see observables in the terminal. What you do? So it has a couple of parts. First part is to create the prompts. You have to have a subject, which is the first line. Then you give it an observable. You call inquirer.prompt with the observable, and you subscribe to the process. And in the handle prompt, you're going to get each question after their answers, with the appropriate answer, of course. So I just create this setup, and then I create my initial questions. What do I do in the initial questions? Well, I ask a bunch of stuff. In my case, I ask for what day do you want to order, what type of meal do you want, and then the last one, which is the most important thing, is to ask him, do you want more stuff? And then I give him choices, yes and no. So these are the initial questions, and then in the handle prompt, I just look for the prompt with the name more, and if it's that one and he answered yes, then I'll just emit some new values on that observable, on the observable from here. So basically, very basic observable functionality. And of course, you gotta figure out what is the last question in your form, and when he answers that, you just complete the observable, and then questions are over. That's it. And I thought this is like a very elegant way in which these guys handled this variable number of choices, because like runtime variation. How do you collect the responses in this case? Well, since you have an observable, you would use an Rx operator to reduce all the prompts, and you build like an object. You have this is the observable, the create prompts, and then I reduce it, and I just accumulate everything, all the answers. And when this observer completes, then the accumulator is filled out with everything. Now some fancy user experience. Spinners. So you saw this here. Spinner, loading menu. How do you do that? Well, somebody on the internet thought this might be something useful. So they did a library, it's called Aura, and you just give it a text and you start it, and then later when it's done, you stop it. And that's it. So you just make an AJAX, first you start it, make your AJAX request, and when it's done, just stop it. And the most important question, actually this was the most important question the first time. How do you make the ASCII art? The one with this one. This one is very easy. There's another library on the internet. It's called Figlet. You just give it the text. You can give it a various option of font that you want to use, because there are a bunch of ASCII art fonts. And then it returns a promise. When it's done, you just console log the response. But now the even more important question, like how did you draw the pictures of food? There's another package on npm which you just give it a URL to an image, and it will do some fancy magic and print it. Didn't believe it to work, but it worked the first time. And something else, how do you do an executable npm package? Because I wanted this to be like you just run npm install and then you can execute it like Angular CLI or like create React app. It's pretty easy. Inside your index.js, you should add a shebang over there to say with what you want this to be executed. And in your package.json, just have a bin section where you put the command and what JavaScript file you want to be executed. And it works. And this was like one weekend's work. Any questions? Silence. That means good. Yes.
Do you get any layouting options? So when we printed the food images, right? They're just one after the other.
Yeah, that's.
Can I actually make like an actual layout?
So that thing is just console log. Let me show you something. Yeah.
Not really. I mean, even for this, I mean, you still need like an interaction designer for stuff. It's not enough. It's not. You can't get away from designers.
Yeah, but it's a bit less work.
Yeah.
Well, at least for this one, you just have to order some food. It's not rocket science. Where the fuck do I do that? Print images. So what I do here, most probably you don't see anything. Don't laugh. So I just do a promise all in which I give it all the images. ASCII is the library which makes the image into an ASCII thing, and then I just console log everything. So if you would want, you would have to do some. These are strings, so you would have to make your own algorithm to parse the \n and after the first. So for this one here, no, actually here. So for each line here, you would have to take another line from the other image if you want to put them side by side. And that's just totally way more work than just printing them over here, which is a great user experience. Just scroll.
Have you searched for a package that does that?
What?
Display images side by side?
No, I'm pretty sure that.
I'm there is one.
I'm pretty sure there's like packages that just display HTML.
If you do that, you need these to be a bit smaller for sure. And when we play around with this a bit in the office, we saw that if they're super small, they don't really look like food. They just look like smudge.
That's food too.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to order.
I wanted to ask if you try to make the text smaller just where you need it, so only on the images.
So to have a different size font, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that. If you as an app in the terminal can choose to print with a different font.
No CSS. So
No, maybe no.
I think we can switch colors and stuff.
Color switching, yeah. There's some directives which you have to put before the text, but font, I don't know. This actually didn't solve my problem because the problem started from the mobile. On the mobile, it's the same website, and it didn't remember me, so I always had to fill out my first name and last name and so on. So I said I'm gonna make a terminal app, and I worked on it. And then my girlfriend told me that you don't have a terminal on your phone, so this is useless. And I said okay, but I already started, so I can't stop now. And then since its usage was debatable, I said, okay, let's show it here. Maybe some people use it.
The next step would be to create a UI for your console to work on the mobile.
Yeah, Andrei told me about something on NPM, or Robert told me that there's a tool on the NPM website where you can test your packages, but you can only test them like JavaScript code-wise, not executing. So that one doesn't help. But if you find a website where you can get a terminal and you can install that and run it, then it works on your phone as well.
Yeah, or just like find a version of Node that works on a phone.
So this is just like the command prompt in Windows?
Yeah,
Use here, but on Mac.
it's the same. It works on Mac, Linux, Windows, anything.
Also another question: how do you distribute this? I mean, you would have to teach your users to install Node and NPM and what those are.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be only for programmers, so I think they already know that. Then it has a fancy help, and maybe I can create a plugin for Angular CLI and create React app. After you ran a certain number of commands, you might be hungry, so this can start and ask you, do you want some food?
Why not put it in the browser?
Why not make a website?
Well, I can by doing this. I already have a website. But one of the cool parts about this is that with these tools, you can just reuse them, like even Inquirer, and build another UI over it. If you don't want it to be in a terminal, the core, the logic of the application, you can port it, and then instead of console logging the questions, you can just put a form somewhere. And if you want to make like a wizard in the browser, you can do that and keep the logic the same.
It's too bad you can't do it in the Chrome console.
I mean, you could do a package that you can install on the actual website, and you can access those commands
What?
with the command line on the website.
Well, this won't work in Chrome console.
You don't have that.
This moving around questions and answers with up down, and I keep remembering that you guys don't see anything. And this was not the one. Go away. So the up down and selection won't work. The printing will work, but not the answering. But you can do something which gives the user a command to copy paste, and he just executes that. That's how he selects stuff. Of course, people will want to use that. Why go on a website? Any other questions?
You seem to have lots of free time.
I find time for important stuff.
Definitely.
Well, thanks.